Some breaking news to start NFL Live. Adam Schefter, tell us what's going on in Washington.
RC, Terry McLaurin and the Washington Commanders have reached agreement on a 3-year deal worth up to $96 million. McLaurin was entering the last year of his contract and obviously looking for a raise. The two sides have been discussing a deal. We are at August 25th. The season opens next week. The Commanders are busy getting ready for the regular season opener against the New York Giants. McLaurin hasn't practiced this summer, and if there were a time to get a deal done to keep alive his chances of playing in that regular season opener, this would be it. This morning, they reached agreement on a deal that will end his hold-in, allow him to get back on the practice field, and means he'll suit up week 1.
Welcome to NFL Live. The voice you just heard and the face you just saw was Adam Schefter. I'm Ryan Clark, your host today. Phil Yates and Dan O sitting with me. Dan O, listen, I've been working with you this entire offseason, and you talked about how important it was to get Terry McLaurin signed, not only for the Commanders, but for the young quarterback, Jayden Daniels. What do you think of the deal?
Massive, needed. You weren't a real contender in the division without Terry McLaurin. I also think just bring it to the football field. This offense without Terry McLaurin was playing in red zone spacing in the open field. Meaning when you play down in the red zone as an offense, everyone talks about how the field gets shrunk down. The defense only has to defend 20 yards of depth, 30 yards of depth. It would have been the case in the open field without Terry McLaurin like that. Teams would just have played so much closer to the line of scrimmage. Now with Terry back, you get the vertical presence of your offense back. The Jayden Daniels rookie season that we saw with so many of those magical throws downfield, not only the clutch ones, but that connection. It also allows Debo to live in Debo's role. It also allows the Luke McCaffrey to live in the Luke McCaffrey role. So the impact that he has on this football team and its ability to win games, I think is on par with the Jamar Chase and a Justin Jefferson because of the way that he allows that offense and specifically Jayden to push the ball downfield.
One more football note. You said they're playing with red zone spacing right now. Now they can go back to normalcy, but in the red zone, he also was their best player by far last season. Last season, when Jayden Daniels targeted Terry McLaurin in the red zone, he was 12 of 14, 9 touchdowns. That's bonkers, silly video game numbers. On top of the football impact, I think we all know this, and I've talked about this throughout the offseason. He's on the short list, if not the most respected player in the entire locker room. This is the kind of guy that could one day win the NFL's Walter Payton Man of the Year award. That's the kind of respect that Terry McLaurin has around the league. It's not easy to deal with any contract negotiation. It's especially difficult when this is a guy who has been through so much and been sort of the exemplary part of the locker room. Obviously, Jayden Daniels' arrival has totally changed the trajectory of this franchise, but Terry McLaurin was the kind of player that did everything right during the most difficult times for Washington, RC. This was a must-do to get done. I'm glad they found some middle.
Yeah, for me, it's about common sense prevailing, about understanding what Terry McLaurin means to this team, not only with his production and what we see on the field, but what he means to this team in the locker room, how he helped a young Jayden Daniels become the offensive rookie of the year. And the one thing you don't want is to have this team set back by not signing one of their best football players, but also one of their best people. And if you're the Washington Commanders, you're trying to figure out how to make back-to-back playoffs since the last time I won the 12-year-old Little League championship as a quarterback of the Terrytown
12-year-old Little League football
championship.
What position did you play?
I was the quarterback. Absolutely.
A lot of options.
Let's get to some more top stories with Schefter. Terry McLaurin, not the only person looking for a new deal. Tell us what's going on with Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons also would like a new deal, but he and the Cowboys have not discussed one in months. And once again, Micah Parsons not at practice again today. The Cowboys open their season a week from Thursday night, and it doesn't look like Parsons will be able to play. And if he does, he would be limited at best with the fact that the two sides have not been able to get a deal done, and Parsons hasn't practiced all summer. Meanwhile, the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson at least have some dialogue going. They recognize the time on the calendar it is. We'll see if the two sides can figure out a way to get a deal done. They've been trying to get a deal done for the better part of 2 off seasons and really 4 years. If you really look at it, no deal yet. We'll see if they could find a way. And just in to ESPN's NFL Live, the Houston Texans are not going to activate Joe Mixon by Tuesday's 4 p.m. Eastern deadline. He will be moved to the non-football injury active list. Well, basically, he cannot play the first 4 games of the season at least. Now, this has been a very mysterious injury. He essentially was on the non-football injury list, which means it was an ankle injury that wasn't related to something that he did on the football field. He will miss at least the first 4 games. And until somebody says something different, I think there are questions about when and if Joe Mixon will play again this season.
This is absolutely huge news, not only for the Houston Texans as a team, but for third-year quarterback C.J. Stroud. Dan, how big is this news about Joe Mixon?
Absolutely enormous. One of the best backs in football. This is an offense down in Houston that is, to your point, third-year C.J. Stroud, breaking in a new offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, and relatively 5 new offensive starters as a group together. So to not have the premier back attached to that is a big deal. Second of all, we've worked with him long enough. If Schefter is saying something about the uncertainty of post the 4 games, there's that makes me give a lot of hesitation to what Joe Mixon's future is like going to be after those 4 games.
Yeah, and what scares me about this is Joe Mixon was so important to this team, the physicality that he played with, even on a team that wasn't great up front last year. And so now you're thinking about C.J. Stroud, who has all of these weapons on the outside. That play-action game, to me, is going to be a huge part of his success. And I think it takes a big hit without having Joe Mixon on the field. You don't know if it's going to be 4 games or more, but for the hopes of DeMeco Ryans and his team, you definitely hope he's back sooner. D-Town showdown, and it came to a head over this weekend when Micah Parsons decided to lay down on the trainer's table mid-game. Of course, Parsons is still awaiting a new deal from Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. And Todd Archer is reporting that there is no sign of Parsons doing open portion of practice today. And new on NFL Live, here's Cowboys corner Trevon Diggs and quarterback Dak Prescott.
You know, I'm not him at the end of the day. You know, I just hope, you know, we get everything worked out, get everything, you know, situated. You know, all the guys miss him. Everybody wants him out there, you know, so I just hope, you know, everything gets handled so we can just go out there and win.
He has to be traded, but you think he wants to be part of this team?
Most definitely. Like I've heard him say before, you know, he plays the game, you know, for us. And, you know, we go out there sweating, blood, sweat, tears. We work out together, you know, training together. So, you know, it's really, you know, him being with us at the end of the day. So I know for sure he wants to be out there with us and, you know, just helping this team win. You know, this is home, like this is his family. So why wouldn't he want to be here?
As I alluded to it before, I mean, there's been a case of something similar to this the last 3 years, I believe. So if not before, I mean, I guess, right? Not necessarily. I think that's people can take it however they want. I think it's kind of part of the way guys think and see things around here. I don't always hear a lot, but I actually did hear DeMarcus Lawrence talking about it, and I think he hit it on the head of, like, when you're here in this organization, this is just how you see things are done, whether they're right, wrong, or whoever has their view about them. But what I think that does help is allow us to just stay focused on our jobs and us understanding that us putting energy toward any of that doesn't help.
DeMarcus Lawrence said that on the pivot, by the way, if you people want to go check that out. But Adam, listening to Dak Prescott and Trevon Diggs, you know, they seem to want Micah there, and Dak sort of saying, hey, man, this is just how it goes. Where do things stand now in Dallas?
Well, see, he said it to you, but the fact of the matter is there has not been any progress towards a new deal. There have been no new talks. One person described this to me today, this issue with Micah Parsons, as Jerry Jones' Waterloo. Doesn't want to give in at all to Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons has gone public in his announcement that he'd like to be traded away from Dallas. We saw him laying on a table during the preseason game. And again, the Cowboys open their season a week from Thursday night in Philadelphia against the Eagles. Micah Parsons still has not practiced yet. They're waiting for him to practice. And again, right now, he still has back tightness. Back tightness likely is going to last until next week and probably will be there until and unless a contract extension gets done. And right now, there's no sign that an extension will get done anytime soon.
Nothing loosens up back tightness like heavy pockets.
Like 2 columns.
$42 million a year.
Pockets.
Yep.
Dan, do you have any issues with the way Micah handled himself this weekend?
I don't. But I do want to talk about Dak's comments a little bit because, you know, listening to Dak talk, and Dak's always very calm about the way he speaks to the media. But I did sense like there was a little bit of frustration hearing him talk when he was like, this has happened for like 3 out of the last 4 years. And I know part of him is saying, you just understand that's how it goes, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, you agree with it or not. We all know that's not right. We all know that's not what's best or what the best organizations winning-wise are doing. So when I hear him talk, like I feel like he's like, yeah, it just happens, almost to a point where he sounds numb to it. Like, yeah, this is just what we do. And, you know, our job is to deal with, or not deal with the noise and just focus on our job. And while I understand that, you know you can't just focus on your job because you're answering questions to it, and your team is weaker with him not there. And so, like, I just think that's really challenging as the quarterback to the team.
You know, he almost sounded exasperated with it, right?
Yeah.
Dak Prescott's basically saying to you, I don't know why we talk about this year after year. Look at Zach Martin. Look at myself. Look at CeeDee Lamb. Look at DeMarcus Lawrence. This is what happens every single preseason. But what also happens is playoff failure. What also happens is coming up short. And so if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you would think at some point you decide to change things a little bit, Field, from what's been happening throughout the past history.
You would think. Logic would tell you that, right? It hasn't happened over the past 8 or 9 years since the Zeke holdout took place after his 3rd season in the NFL and lasted until like 3 days before the regular season began. To circle back to what Micah did over the weekend, I don't like it. But the problem is it starts at the top. And the reason why Micah is acting this way is because Jerry Jones can't keep his mouth shut. And every time he talks about this negotiation, he makes things worse. This is reactionary from Micah Parsons. 2 things can be true at the same time. I don't like Micah's decision to lay down in the, like, it's, you're still part of the locker room, man. And those are your teammates that I get it. A lot of the guys aren't playing, but there are dudes who are busting their hump just to make a roster in the NFL, to make as much in an entire season as he makes in like a day. You got to respect those guys a little bit more. But this is an issue because Jerry Jones just keeps talking about it in a way that has been, frankly, kind of embarrassing to Micah publicly, right? Like
embarrassing and disrespectful to Micah.
Those 2 things. So, like, if Jerry doesn't want to have situations like what took place this weekend, there are 2 ways to fix it. 1, we can stop talking. 2, more importantly, we can get a deal done. And ultimately, that should be the priority here. It should not be that difficult of a deal to get done. The highest paid defensive player in NFL history is pretty simple. You know what the highest paid player is now. It's Myles Garrett. Get above that number.